you read the introduction to the Species Diversity Lab and the introduction through 5 of age structure that you should have grabbed in the back. Are there any questions about those steps?
Yeah, can you repeat them?
Step 6.1, read the intro to diversity, read the intro plus 1 through 5 in age structure.
Okay.
3 steps. Stamp, diversity intro, age structure intro plus 1 through 5.
You know that it's 20 to 39?
That should take you just a couple of minutes, and then I'll be right back to talk about all those assignments.
Read this shit, read the intro to the tagging line, and get your shit down. Wait, just read your stuff. Wait, have you noticed? Yeah, 6 pounds is not what you're saying. What the fuck? Yeah. Bring in the light.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, what? And the
Oh boy. Yeah, my god. When did that shit? Wait, look at it.
Alright. I'll apologize in advance. This is going to go quickly. Thank you. Dante, your counselor intern, or whatever that means, wants to see you after. I know, I don't know what maybe I misread it. What happened? Huh? Nothing, bro. Hey, bro.
Sorry, my handwriting's bad. I can read it. Chill.
Yeah. Did I do something that I should remember doing? Just speak, Tyler.
What do you mean? What happened? You walked by in his back end, made him move forward.
Oh, yeah, dude. Welcome to APES, bro.
That was my
how I roll.
That's why I wasn't making a big deal out of it.
Oh, good. Okay.
I have what it looks like.
How many people have slapped by me in the last 3 days? See? Love. Who have I not slapped in the last 3 days? I'll have to catch up on those. Thank you for the reminder. No lack of love, I swear. Okay.
Yeah.
As you have hopefully read, the Shannon Diversity Index is an artificial number that lets you compare the relative diversity of a variety of populations, communities. Am I projecting? First of all, the typo. Please look at pre-lab question number 1 in your diversity lab. And I'll warn you that if you're not following today's conversation, I'm pretty sure you won't be able to do the lab at all. No offense, it's just that I don't think many of you are familiar with this type of communication. Now do you see what am I projecting something?
Yeah.
This is a typo. It says figure 7.2. As you can see, that's not the figure I meant. I don't know about your edition. In my edition, I'm talking about figure 7.5, but I'm talking about this diagram, okay? I think that most of you can tell right away which of the two is more diverse.
Bottom one.
Funny thing is, they both have 10 species. The top one has 10 species, although elephants are overly represented. The bottom one also has 10 species, but they are more evenly distributed. Yes?
So their species richness is the same, but their species abundance is different. Yeah.
So relative abundance here is higher than the relative abundance there. Here. What?
What figure is that?
I'm sorry that I don't know. The Shannon Diversity Index gives you a number that you can use to compare populations. In real data, like what I'll give you on Monday, when looking at real data, it's a little tougher to say, is this more diverse than that? And just how much? How do we compare? Exactly how much more or less diverse? To have this conversation, there's this very fancy formula. Funny thing is, there is no way to enter the information into a single formula that has repeated procedures. You can make an algorithm for this, a data table for this, or a data set, which is an algorithmic formula. But before we get confused with all the other possibilities, let me remind you, you can just fill in the table I gave you in the lab. And if you are afraid that your math skills might be inadequate, I want to point out to you in red that the only skills you need are counting, and please look up, calculator, 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 calculator.
Yes.
So if you can count, and if you have a calculator, you got the right skills, okay? I'll show this to you. I'll walk you through this process. It's very simple. If you have a smartphone, most phones come preloaded with a relatively generic, simple calculator. When you turn it sideways, that should show you additional functionality. iPhones in particular, it may be in a utilities subfolder or something, depending on how you organize your apps. If you have an Android, I think you have to turn on the extra functions. Someone showed me that in period 1. show you what I've already done. For your homework, you'll have to make the index for this population, this community, and this community. This one I can do for you in class. And then this one you'll do at home. Okay?
Okay.
All you gotta do is count. I swear, just counting. Please look up. There's no urgency to write this. I'll leave it on the board tomorrow when I think you'll have more time. But I think it's very important that you see the procedure I'm following. The I is an integer, and you start at 1 for whole numbers. Please look up. Species 1, species 2, species 3, however many species you have. In your book, there are 10 species, so your integers range from 1 to 10. In the data set I'll give you next week, there are a larger number of species. I think this is 32 or something, 35, depending on your part of the world. I is just the number of species. So P3 is the p-value for the third species. P5 is the p-value for the fifth species. P10 is the p-value for the 10th species. Little n4 is the number of species 4. Little n7 is the individual count for species 7. P is calculated as the number of that species divided by the total number of all individuals. So your first step, step number 1, is to count your total number, all individuals of all species. And in your homework, that's 100, 10 by 10. Next week, when I give you this data, you would have to add 754 plus 324 plus 345 plus 907 to get your big N. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
In this room, the total number of students is probably around 36 today, something like that. I don't need to break you up into species. Step number 2, you count the individuals of your each species. I've already done this for you. For next week, and tonight in your homework, I'll just give you a hint. It's 82 and 2 of everything. And I'll bet you that this is probably 10 of each, but you'll find out when you do the homework. So 82 elephants, 2 hippos, 2 lions, 2 rhinos. Let's do monkeys. Looking here, I see 1, 2 monkeys. I knew that would be the case. So here goes. We've got 2 monkeys. Next, for the p-value, I'll use my calculator to divide. We know that p is little n divided by big M, or in this case, 2 divided by 100. I don't really need my calculator for that because I'm very, very smart. But if you want, you can use your calculator. Check my math. P is just using my calculator to divide. Next week, you would do something like 907 divided by 12,000 or whatever. Questions about this? It's called the relative abundance. What percentage of the total community is made up by your